Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Back again in the final frontier. Oh, look, I got a new buzz phrase. For the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. This is episode 117. I am your humble servant, Trek Lord of West Michigan, Charlie Carden, coming at you with two of my regular cohorts. That would be the Trekker from the City of Wind, where it's just as cold out there as it is here in West Michigan. That would be Jen Watson. Jen, good morning.
Good morning.
And my guy down in the BH, Benton Harbor, also hugging the lakeshore, Mr. Aaron Heminger. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So, yeah, we are on our way out of a deep freeze here in the Midwest. Numbers next week are supposed to be unseasonably warm, so that works for me. Especially since I travel so extensively for work. So that is all right.
We'll be back up in the double digits. It'll be great.
Ooh, man, I know.
Positive numbers.
It practically feels like summertime. It's amazing. But we've done way more weather chat than we usually do on this show. That's usually what Oxford and I do on the main show because we're both old and old people like to talk about the weather. But before we get the ball rolling, quick summary. We are wrapping up our fantasy episode remakes of Star Trek, the original series, with our newly assembled fantasy cast. We're going to talk about season 3, and then we're going to continue to talk about the 4th season of Star Trek Voyager. But first and foremost, you got to pay the bills by talking about the Secret Friends Unite Patreon. If you visit patreon.com/SecretFriendsUnite, you can actually give us a try for 1 week for free. And listen to fun, great content like the show that I run called The Facts Geek Life. Jen has joined me many times. Aaron, we got to get you on board. We take a classic series, a season of that show, and then 3 or 4 episodes, and we break it down in a fun and satirical way. As well as, offerings there by my partners, Todd Oxtra and Mark Carabin. We always like to give love to our top tier Patreons on the Friends with Benefits level. Corey and HD, John Sidorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters cosplay that have a great event coming up next weekend, their virtual con, so please tune in. Brendan Myers, the Asian Sith mistress over on the Star Wars side, and longtime friend of the show, Matthew Keel. Top tier Patreons, our BFFs are Sean, Stella, and Henry Nias, the Nias family of the Twin Cities, and friend of the show and friend of yours and mine, Missy Merchant. So we are very grateful to all of you. Again, please visit patreon.com/SecretFriendsUnite. Try us out for a week, and if you like what you hear, feel free to stick around. All right. Well, I scoured the interwebs, the digging deep looking for news, and I didn't find anything. Jen, you are our news hound since you're actually involved in, Star Trek journalism. Is there any story that I'm missing out on?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we're all just
There was the Trek Talks 3 talk,
right,
that was held on YouTube. There was a lot of really cool information there.
Cool.
You can check that out on YouTube. Just interviews with a lot of cast members, but nothing really new as far as like release dates or anything. We still don't know when Prodigy season 2 is coming out.
Right.
But
yeah, I know
it'll be out.
Yeah, one piece of news that Discovery, the first episode of season 5, is going to get a rollout at South by Southwest, but that doesn't give us it does not give us an actual air date for the rest of us humans. So
April. We know it's April.
Yeah, we know it's April. April will be here before you know it, and the weather could potentially be warmer. But oh my God, we slipped back into talking about weather. Let's get the hell out of that, and we'll move into the first segment of our show, where we will be talking about, as I said, the 3rd season of Star Trek, the original series, with our new fun fan cast. And I have one document. I've just kind of been pairing it backwards because I did all my first season picks and then 2 and then 3. So I have at least deleted up that far, but I did leave my casting picks below it because I knew eventually I would forget because, old. But let's get it rolling. So season 3, just to paint the picture, this was the, hey, we can kill it if we try season by NBC. They were like, we really want to get rid of this thing. We've tried to cancel it twice. hasn't worked out. Let's stick it Friday nights at 10 p.m. where no normal people, which is funny because Star Trek fans would stay home on Friday night at 10 p.m. to watch Star Trek. I know I would have in 1968. And that was finally the death knell. And they cut the budget dramatically, which I will actually address in one of my episodes. That is, and the writing
shows.
Staff, yeah, it shows. I think the writing staff changed. I know Gene Roddenberry had taken a big step back. There's a whole odyssey on quirks about season 3, and certainly feel free, you guys, to jump in. And then also to our listeners, hit us up over on Threads or certainly on the Secret Friends Unite Discord with your thoughts about season 3 and what went wrong. And of course the obvious answer, how could they have fixed it? Well, they could have just stayed on the air. And the famous story, and Jen, you can elaborate on this, or certainly Aaron as well, but it's my understanding in the aftermath of the cancellation, which happened spring, early summer of 1969, mere weeks before the moon landing, or the faked moon landing, if you're one of those people. But we're not going to address that. The real moon landing, as far as I'm concerned, was that a retabulation or a changing in a way that Nielsen ratings were looked at actually proved that this was the biggest hit that NBC had ever had.
Yeah.
But by then, hindsight is 2020, and there was nothing they could do about it. And then we limped our way into Star Trek: The Animated Series, which we will not be talking about again unless it comes up in the new segment that we're going to start next week, because we do have to honor the system if it ends up coming up. But that's okay. All right, so let's get rolling. I'm going to start to my extreme right. I usually start to my extreme left. And I'm going to let Jen go first. Jen, what is your number one of 2 picks of episodes to be remade in the 3rd season?
My number one pick is the Enterprise incident.
That's my number 2 pick. So we can talk about it together.
All right.
But you go first because it's yours.
I like this. I think that it can definitely be improved by some more of the updated technology and more updated costumes and everything, and some of the updated it's feminist for its time, because you have the female Romulan commander.
Yeah, I thought she was great. I watched
awesome.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, so just to be
awesome.
Yeah.
So I would really like to. I don't think it needs a lot of updates. It's one of these that's actually it's a good episode. So unlike my second pick. This is the good episode that I'm picking.
I'm curious.
That I think just it's going to go. I think it can go in some really interesting places. It touches on some of the political stuff that's happening that is still somewhat relevant. I just like this one. I think it would be a good one to see redone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. This one did benefit greatly in 2006 for the 40th anniversary of the franchise, having all the external opticals replaced. So we got some, because originally it was the bastardization of the Klingon D7 with Spock's throwaway line, intelligent, because Scotty says, oh my God, that's a Klingon ship, as they had veered into the Romulan neutral zone. And he's like, well, that wouldn't be around here. And Spock, and it's like, this is painfully like, we cut the budget. Spock goes, well, intelligence reports are now showing Romulans using Klingon design. And I just took the palm of my hand and applied it to my forehead and said,
but you can do something with that to like explain that in a better way now, and sort of deconstruct it and go into it. And that's one of the things that Strange New Worlds and Discovery to some extent does really well, is that it dives into some of these like budgetary sort of gaffes and goes, there's a reason for this.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But at any rate, they did, at least at that time, clean that up. But in the scene where the Enterprise is surrounded by 3 vessels, the third one is Romulan bird of prey, which was new. And I thought that was totally awesome. And then even, when the Enterprise escapes from the 3 ships, it was a beautiful shot from Enterprise perspective, holding steady, and just the background behind it disappearing very rapidly. I thought that was a nice accomplishment. So, Aaron, we've left you totally cold. Since she and I are talking about the same episode, do you have thoughts on that episode, or did that not cross your horizon as you were doing that?
Yeah, I thought about it briefly, but I moved on to some other content that I was
totally fair. What are some other thoughts I had about it? Yeah, I did love the framework between seeing the Romulan commander and Spock interact was fantastic. Spock is he's just so incredibly unflappable. Just a reminder of what an incredible character it is, and then what an incredible portrayal that Leonard Nimoy brought to it. And Spock has kind of turned into the Batman of Star Trek. It's like there's a lot of different there's a lot of different Spocks. Ooh, Batman of Star Trek. I think I may have just found an early contender for the episode name. In so much that there's been a lot of people who have portrayed him, and you can compare contrast, Michael Keaton was my Batman, or Christian Bale was my Batman, or yada yada yada. To me, you just kind of go back to the original. I don't think there will ever be a true contender for how Leonard Nimoy pulled this role off, and I think he did it here. In some ways, top 5 Spock moments or interactions or scenes, basically how he executed things with this Romulan.
I think Ethan Peck is doing a great job.
Oh, I agree. He's
amazing.
He's without a doubt my number 2. I totally agree. And then don't forget all the people who played young Spock in Star Trek 3. Nobody ever gives them any regard. I'm just kidding. Nobody really cares about that. Well, Aaron, let's move on, just because, like I said, we kind of put you in the back seat of this cab, and I apologize.
It's okay.
So why don't you take your time and give us your number one pick, while I put my tentative episode title into our flow. Go for it. What is your number 1?
Okay, well, I had to think about this for a long time, and there was a lot of episodes I could pick. I finally decided, you know what? Let's just have some fun, and I picked this episode purely for superficial reasons. So my number 1 pick for this to see a remake would be the Tholian Web.
Ooh!
Oh, it's my number 2.
Oh, nice!
No, that's not my number 2. That was almost my other number 1.
Oh, okay. I thought we were
going to have number 1 because my number 2 was the bad episode.
Okay,
my number 2 was my bad episode, so that was my other number 1.
So you went good bad. I appreciate that. This will be fun. All right, Aaron, please.
Yeah, no, Tholian Web. I would love to see it by what I mean by superficial reasons. With all the technology and the CG that we have at our disposal, I would just love to see an update, because the Tholians are such an interesting and unique crystal-based species, and the technology that they use, like the web itself. We've seen a little bit about hinted at that in some older episodes, and Enterprise definitely took a run at it.
Definitely,
brought them back, and they did a fantastic job. But I just wonder how much further can we push that now that it's 2024, and really do some cool stuff with it visually, and put our cast picks and the Strange New Worlds cast really through their paces in a very difficult situation. And again, there's an argument to be made, don't mess with perfection, because it was such an iconic episode. But I just think it would be really fun to kind of re-explore it and just see what we can do today.
Yeah, most definitely. So, all right. Well, I kind of glommed onto Jen's. So I'm going to save my second pick for the last, but we'll let Jen move forward with her second pick. If it's the same one, then I'm just going to shut up for good after I'm done talking. But you go ahead.
My bad episode?
Yeah.
My horrible episode?
Yes.
Turnabout Intruder.
Oh, I didn't even have the Grombas to go for that one. So, yeah, take it on.
When we discussed this in our good bad episode, which I don't remember which number it was, but there was a lot of stuff that I brought up about how this would be so different if it was made today. And I think that it's, I think that you can take something really bad that did not go well and take elements of it and apply it to today. And I think that so the thing with this episode is you're not really retconning anything with it, because in the episode itself, they point out that Janice Lester is not a good candidate for a captain. It has nothing to do with her gender.
Right.
It's because she's not mentally well. And I would love to see a modern take on addressing the fact that she needs help. Because let me tell you, Paul Wesley's Kirk would be so much more empathetic and understanding. And it's nothing against William Shatner. It's the writing of the time that put these words in his mouth that were so just anti-empathetic and just like, oh, it's too bad she's a woman, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I would really like to see a new modern take on how this episode addresses mental health and gender disparity and pointing out that there are women captains at this time. I really want to see it remade and sort of redeemed, I guess, because it's so awful.
I absolutely love that. You are, if you're right, if you could, because what a fly stuck in amber this episode was.
And it's the last episode.
And it's the last one. Yeah. It has no feeling of the end of a series because it was, and you guys are done. And I mean, you'd have to dig in. And again, I have
it's like, we have this extra episode left over after the moon landing and people are interested in space. Let's just throw this on the wall and see what happens. And it was bad. It was bad.
It was definitely bad. And it was, and not to say, oh, this would have made all the difference in the world, but really in the 70s, I owe a lot of my, livelihood to the women's lib movement because my parents got divorced in the late 70s. My mom was a stay-at-home mom but with college degrees, so she was able to go out and snag a lower paying job as a sales assistant that she worked up into in the 1980s, a great sales job that really actually paid for the house I live in because I live in the house I grew up in. So I owe a lot to women's lib, but this episode didn't make me feel that in the 23rd century, we didn't just say, well, screw it, Yeah. So it was, it was, but I am 100% simpatico with you about that. I think that they could do a lot of really amazing things by turning this around. So good pick. I wish that my second pick was anything noble like that, but Aaron, you get to go next, and I'm
not noble. I'm just upset.
No, I know. No, I think it could be something very noble.
It
transformed
could.
in the way that you described it. Absolutely. So, all right, Aaron, please.
Okay, so for my second pick, this one. Kind of a controversial episode, and I'm not sure if it's something that we could necessarily approach easily today, but that's kind of why I want to see how we would handle it today. My pick would be Whom Gods Destroy.
Okay.
And, continuing on our Batman of Star Trek theme, and of course, guest starred Yvonne Craig as the Orion slave, or not Orion slave girl, but Orion, I guess, mental health patient in this particular instance.
Right.
But, the whole episode takes place in an insane asylum, which in the world of Star Trek itself is an interesting concept because this is a society that's supposed to evolve to the point where, they found cures to mental illness and physical illness and every sort of, thing that's kind of held us back in a lot of ways. So it's kind of this weird paradox that here's this mental health facility, kind of mental health facility, insane asylum sort of, just in the middle of nowhere with all these problem children that they put in a box and kind of scoot to the side. And, the story was told, with the mentality at the time where there was just a different, mental health was viewed through a different lens than it is today. And it was definitely held by our standards inappropriately in a lot of ways. And I think that's something that I think there's a story to be told there, but there's a conversation to be had about it, more of a conversation to be had about it today and about how these problems specifically interact with these characters. Because it's not just a plot device. It's so intricate and so nuanced in so many ways what people go through on a regular basis, including, myself and my own struggles with mental health.
Sure.
I would just really like to see us approach that and have more of a conversation about the realities of that situation.
Excellent. Very good. Well, you guys are making me feel pretty dumb because my last pick is nothing that has any great social commentary, but it was just an episode that I've always really loved for kind of no good reason. Actually, my number one pick was Spectre of the Gun. Because I found this to be one of the most egregious examples of, we don't have any money left, so let's go over to the Bonanza set. We'll take this wall and this walkway and these 5 costumes and maybe this hitching post, and we'll make an episode that, again, much like back in the Enterprise incident where Spock says, the Romulans are using the Klingon stuff now, that it's like, there's a line in this that says, Kirk says, well, it's very patchwork, and there's this wall here and blah, blah, blah. And Spock, or I believe it was Spock, maybe one of the other characters said, well, potentially this is all they really needed to build the setting. And it's like the aliens, I think it was the Melkons, were, the Enterprise is flying through. They say, you guys are in our space. This is, an egregious disaster. We're going to have to enact a penance. And then they dump most of our cast, less Uhura. Oh, that means Uhura must have been running the ship. Or Sulu, or one was captain, one was first officer. So there you go. While our characters were gone, because it was everybody but down there on the planet. And then they had to act out the gunfight at the OK Corral. Now, I'm a very big fan of Westerns. I was all through, grade school. So maybe that's why this one kind of speaks to me. And I visited old Tucson because we had some family friends who lived in Tucson, Arizona when I was a kid. So I've been there a couple of different times. So this one really resonated with me, but why not go back? And again, I wouldn't say it's a fun episode since it involves, a life or death situation, but it's a very Star Trek kind of episode. Aliens, life or death situation. Our people have to figure out a way out of it that they don't get killed. And ultimately it comes down to Batman solving this deal, because at the end of it, they go all the way through this, and they Chekhov ends up dying in a gunfight prior to the conclusion of the episode, if you're not familiar with the episode. And Spock then figures out it's really because he thought everything was real, and in his brain he had a doubt, so the bullet could kill him. So Spock mind melds with everybody, which is great that between Enterprise and here, mind melding is like giving somebody a high five, where back in Enterprise it was like, it's a very intimate act, and it was even really dealt with in a way of a type of psionic assault back then, where 100 years later, it's dealt with. And I think that was actually dealt with in Enterprise, wasn't it, with in that 4-season 3-parter with was it not T'Pol, T'Pring? Who was in the Amok Time episode that was the one who presided over Spock's wedding, was a younger version of
T'Pel.
T'Pel, thank you. That the considering mind melding dirty was a part of high command propaganda. And so 100 years later, it's a nice normal plot device that they used to save our people. So we could remake this episode, and then it wouldn't have to be, well, there's only a part of a wall here and half of a walkway or half of a sidewalk or something.
Or it could, because that's the conceit of the aliens plot.
But it could still be a better half a wall. That's all I'm saying.
It could. But I also like this idea because Strange New Worlds has done something already with the Elysian Kingdom.
Yeah.
With that whole, let's use the random Renaissance fair costumes that we have laying around.
Right.
And they've turned it around to make these are not just random Renaissance fair costumes laying around. They are gorgeous.
Right.
I've seen La'an's dress in person at Mission Chicago when they brought that in.
Right.
And it was I don't know who this character is, but this is amazing. And it's a dream dress. But anyway, I'm getting off the topic.
No. You know what? I could absolutely see it either way. But again, the episode at its core, it's a great Star Trek premise, fits the bill. And then it's a great Star Trek solution employing the Batman of Star Trek, Mr. Spock. Now we've said that 3 or 4 times, so it's definitely
he's got the pointy ears. It's
they're just not they're on the side, not on the top. But it's okay. Big eared Batman. That's a catchphrase over on the Weekly Planet podcast, which is a podcast out of Australia that I'm a big fan of. I'm big eared Batman, big eared Spock man, which is that Spock. If you're familiar with Mad Magazine, he was frequently drawn that way, like Alfred E. Newman, who is the Jen. If I'm going over your head, let me know. Mad Magazine is more of a thing of my youth. I don't know. No, not so much.
I'm familiar.
Okay, very good. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. There's sometimes even doing these when I have younger guys on it, younger folks on here that I'm talking, and I'm like, but anyway, I think that would be pretty cool. So, okay, so that is the end of TOS. And again, I know in one of these prior segments we said, do you think this is really going to happen? Is there any chance? We know for a fact that Strange New Worlds season 3 is in production, and reminded of which because we've had 3, soon to be 4 cancellations off the Star Trek cruise, which April and I are going on in a month because the show's in production. Frakes canceled, Christina canceled, Celia canceled, which is such a bummer. She's one of the ones that I haven't met, and it was interesting when I met Anson Mount at Mission Chicago, Jen, as you were saying, it was so interesting because I don't know if it was the case, but he presented as someone who had not done this before, and he looked terrified, but he was still very gracious. But my point in bringing it up is immediately to his left, well, excuse me, his right, my left, was Celia. And she was doing the same thing. And again, she was total unknown. The show hadn't come on yet. I had certainly, but she was so, she had the total stage presence, talking, being.
Well, she's got a Broadway career, so she's done like stage doors and meeting fans before. So like she would have that sort of poise also.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, I wouldn't say that was universal, because then you get somebody like William Shatner who just doesn't, but he just doesn't care. But care. But there's, so I was looking forward to that. But anyway, so Strange New World, anyway, to get back to my point, Strange New Worlds now in production. We don't necessarily know how long that show is going to run. The new barometer for seasons, in the old days, it was 7. Now we know Discovery is ending with 5. Could that mean that Strange New Worlds has 5 seasons in it? Who knows? But then,
I think it'll go as long as the fans want it to go. I think Discovery was an experiment. Mm-hmm. I think it was a successful experiment personally, but that's not a universal opinion, and I recognize that.
That's true.
So, the polarization that Discovery brought on means that, 5 is kind of where it needs to be. And I also think Discovery, that timeline with Discovery and some of the characters are going to continue with the Starfleet Academy show.
That's true. Yeah, they did.
So
that I consider to be the greatest accomplishment of Discovery, in my opinion, is that they did forge ahead, because prequels, I'll echo my partner Todd, prequels can be very frustrating, and in a lot of cases they're just not the greatest for me.
Discovery, the first 2 seasons were burdened by the timeline and the chronology.
And changing things, and now they don't have to really worry about that. But at any rate, I agree with you. Strange New Worlds is far less controversial in the way that you're discussing it as far as fan response. Everybody loves
unless you're talking about the musical episode, but I loved it, you didn't, and that's kind of the end of that. Like, other than that, it's been sort of universally great.
Right, exactly. So you're right. It could go the distance. It could go 7. It could go longer.
I think so.
And after that ends, I think we all feel here that there's a good chance that what we're talking about could come to fruition. We could take the characters who've already been cast. I'm sure none of our fan castings will mean anything at all, but they could plug in some other actors and move forward with making, by then, the franchise will be over 60 years old. And and I think it could be an instant success, because again, you're transitioning into characters that people are familiar with because of Strange New Worlds, and some new faces, and telling some stories that potentially could be a mix of what we've discussed, and then a mix of new episodes. And again, in the 10 season block, you could do, we're going to pick our, it could be the same thing. Let's pick 2 from the old show. And then the other 8 are other things that happened within that same time period, because the Enterprise was getting into shit every week. Something was happening. So they, there's no doubt that.
Or they find ways of turning it around, like they already did with, the last episode of the first season of Strange New Worlds, where they basically remade
it was Balestier,
they basically remade it. So it's a twist. It's a twist on it that even used like the same lighting, and it was cool. It was
totally
cool.
All right, gotcha. Aaron, we've been dominating. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Sorry, Aaron.
Oh no, you're perfect. I enjoy listening to you, so it's all good.
Well, that's a plus. So
we love listening to you too, though.
Thank you.
any final thoughts before we depart from this and then move on?
I agree with you. I'm excited to see where they go with Discovery in the future timeline, and I'm so sick to death of prequels, and I'm just excited to see things moving forward. I'm tired of looking back.
Right.
Bring us legacy.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Bring us
Star Trek legacy.
That is something that they just can't get off their hands about, which just blows my mind, because they've given such a nice tee up to where that could go. So anyway. As something about that develops, you'll hear about it here. So, I feel like I talked about this in the episodes leading up, but we are starting a new segment 1 that's going to run between now and when we get Discovery in April, and it's called the Random Episode, or the Random Sode. Several weeks ago, the 4 of us, your Code 47 team, took a page from the Dungeons and Dragons world with the rolling a die to determine a random episode. I'm not going to tell you which one we chose, but it was easy. We took, of the 12 series, which includes short tracks and includes the animated series, each choose a series from that, and then choose a season from the amount of seasons it had, and then chose an episode from there, completely at random with a little roller that we came up with. So I'm excited to jump into that. So you're going to see in this first segment us doing a deep dive, potentially right around the same time frame, where we get really granular in a single episode, talk through trivia about it, talk through our thoughts about it, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, with 850 plus episodes of Star Trek, it gives us lots of opportunity.
You never know what you're gonna get.
You don't know. You might get an episode of Short Treks, in which case we talk very shortly about it. But anyway, look forward to that in our next episode.
Yeah,
so, all right, moving into segment 2, we are getting into the third slice of Star Trek Voyager with a crop of episodes that I absolutely adored. We have essentially a 3-part. Ooh, nice screen change there, Jen. Nice. If you're watching on YouTube, Jen just went click, click, clack, and now she's Harry Kim. Not bad.
Excuse me. I have 2 pips on my. Over this side.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. You have to leave the bridge then. All right. Bye. But yeah, we kicked off with a 3-parter, and then we have a great traditional 2-parter. Though the 3-parter I described as kind of somewhat spiritual. You might not consider it that, but anyway, I'm going to kick it off because this is one of my absolute favorite episodes of Voyager, because again, it talks about it does something that it's like, oh look, they finally did it, but I think it does it in a way that I think is awesome, even with a guest star who is a little iffy as a human being, but still I think really delivered in this. So anyway, episode 14 of the season is Message in a Bottle, which was directed by Nancy Malone. Don't know that name, but I think she did a great job. Story is Rick Williams and teleplayed by Lisa Klink, who again a regular of the writing staff. This was the first episode in 1998, January of 1998. The Doctor's program is sent to an advanced Starfleet vessel via a vast ancient communications network, but he soon discovers that only he and the ship's own EMH, guest star Andy Dick, who starred on News Radio at that time, which is a sitcom I loved on NBC, remain to fight against Romulans who have taken over the ship and are attempting to return to Romulan space with it. Holy crap, what didn't this episode have? It gave us Starfleet. It gave us the first Voyager appearance of the great DS9 uniforms, which, you get a cavalcade of people saying, well, how come they didn't start wearing those on Voyager again? It's like, what?
They didn't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, they didn't know. They didn't know unless they got some pictures back later on. But again, you know what? People on Voyager have a lot more important things to worry about than their dumb uniforms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Plus, think about the enormous expense to recostume all of the consistent regular cast and extras on Voyager. It would have been totally stupid.
Yeah. Well, not to mention the in-story resources of the Replicator.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right, exactly. The Replicator, which is a very limited resource on Voyager, dictated by how much power they had. So, but anyway, minor minutia. Of course, I would say, that those nice gray quilted shouldered with the colored undershirt, that is a nicer uniform, but you know what, who cares? But anyway, Andy Dick, who back in the 90s, he was just quirky. His behavior since then has, I think, pretty much gotten him canceled, because I know I don't see him in anything anymore, but he's just really a genuinely weird and unbalanced individual. But what he did in this episode totally worked. He and Bob Picardo, and again, really looking forward to seeing Bob Picardo again on the cruise. He's a fun and wonderful, cool guy. But he absolutely shined in this episode. You get as far as guest cast, we get Judson Scott, who was Khan's lieutenant in Star Trek II, is the head Romulan. And then you get a great new ship, the Prometheus, multi-vector assault mode. The ship splits into 3 parts in battle. The ship is never really seen in action per se again, though. I think we do see it in passing in, I think maybe even the last episode of Voyager. I don't think we ever see it in DS9, if I'm not mistaken. But this one's one of my absolute favorites, without a doubt, because it has a lot of fun comedic moments in the interchanges between Andy Dick and Bob Picardo. And then it codas out with the button on the episode with Janeway. 60,000 light years feels a lot closer today, when the Doctor returns and says, Starfleet will never stop until they find a way to get you home. And I just kind of choked you up a little bit. So totally awesome episode. My God. But I think probably an early lead for my favorite, and also gives us an introduction to a villain which dominates this pack of episodes, and then we do continue to see intermittently throughout the rest of the series. So, Aaron, your take.
It was a fun episode. I really enjoyed seeing the play back and forth between the Doctor and the new EMH program played by Andy Dick. That was a lot of fun. And I was excited to see the uniforms. I was excited to hear them talking about the Dominion War.
Right.
As a DS9 fan, that was exciting. Plus, getting an idea of how the two episodes line up. I tend to forget that these are happening concurrently,
right?
A lot of the time, and it's really nice whenever you see the crossover. It gives the sense of it being such a more vast and bigger universe, and that was really exciting for me. Though I have to admit, with this episode, I got a little bit of a scare as a viewer. Because I got confused part of the way through, because I was like, what are Romulans doing in the Delta Quadrant? I clearly had missed something, and I was like watching it, and I'm like, am I dumb? What? I don't understand. I had to go back a couple times. Like, wait.
Although not the first Romulan we saw on Voyager, we did have that episode in the first season where the
needle.
Yeah, exactly, where the guy accidentally beamed through time and ended up on Voyager, and then they had to send him back. So, but yeah, it's funny because Voyager was a quote unquote network TV show on the UPN. One of the it's kind of sort of a networks back in the day, and then DS9 was in syndication. So there was definitely I had a close friend of mine who definitely watched Voyager but didn't really catch DS9 because it wasn't as readily accessible. It wasn't, it's on at Thursdays at night, at 8:00, and you can always check it in. When something is a syndication, it could be, it's on, Saturday night, unless there's a basketball game, and then it's on at 3:00 in the morning. So, there were a lot of people, and then plus DS9 was just a very different show. A lot of people didn't grab the vibe. We're all huge fans, but there are people out there who just didn't find it as accessible, where, Voyager was very much a spinoff, a cousin of TNG with the ship and the people and the alien of the week kind of thing happening. So, but anyway, so cool. All right, Jen.
I like this episode. The comedy is good. I also really like that this sort of starts Voyager's experimentation with serialization. Prior to this, you did have a lot of episode of the week, alien of the week, whatever of the week. And with this, when you have the Doctor going and going back to the Alpha Quadrant and bringing and letting Starfleet know that Voyager is in fact out there, then in the subsequent episodes, you have the letters from home coming in, and you have people wondering about that. And it's stuff that goes all the way through, spoilers, but like to the Pathfinder episodes later on in Voyager,
right.
Which is great because all of that really should have been instrumental in bringing them home. Again, spoilers, but like it was bringing hope to Voyager and bringing them another tether to the Alpha Quadrant, which I think that they needed in order for it to be more, like you said, Aaron, tied into the larger universe, because they're not being touched by the Dominion War or the new uniforms or anything else that's going on. So I liked that aspect of it to start tying everything together. And of course, the comedy is great. Seeing Bob Picardo's comedy chops in action here are wonderful. And the Doctor getting to be a hero also for one of the first times, starting that road of his program expanding further also. Like you've seen bits of it starting to happen already, but it's good. It starts the character arcs. I enjoy this one quite a lot.
Most def. Cool. All right. Well, with that, why don't you take us through episode 15, Jen?
I don't have the flow up.
Oh, demoted back to ensign. You just lost a pip. One. You bet. All right. Aaron gets 15. Or not. Aaron, you still with us, bud?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I couldn't find my mouse. Okay. All right, here we go. Episode 15, Hunters. This is directed by David Livingston, written by Jerry Tyler, and debuted February 11th, 1998. Letters from home and Starfleet Command get held up at a Hirogen relay station, and Janeway sets course to retrieve it.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. All right. So yeah, break down. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed this episode. I love the introduction of the Hirogen. I'm a really big Hirogen fan. I love, I'm a Predator fan. I love the Predator movies and the franchise, and
but
these
of course,
guys are very.
Get to the chopper.
Yeah.
Get to the shuttlecraft.
Yeah, there's just something about the honor bound hunter code that I really get into, and I really enjoy these aliens. I also I watch these episodes with my wife, and every once in a while she has some interesting commentary on the episodes we're watching, and she saw Hirogen, and she says, "I don't understand why they're not called Panarans," and I'm like, Panarans, where did you get that from? She's like, because their head looks like baked bread from Panera Bread.
You know what? That's close, but not close enough to get an episode name. So I want you to give my compliments to your wife.
Okay.
But yeah, the Panarans. Oh my God, yes. So is that a pick too? So do I get a soup or a Caesar salad with that, or?
Yeah.
I know. Okay. All right.
But yeah, other than that, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was really good.
All right. Awesome. All right, Ensign Jen, are you ready to jump in?
You do get a soup with it because 8472 is from Fluidic Space, and they're basically
there you go. So what kind of soup? I'm thinking I like a nice bisque. No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. That works.
Hunters. Yeah. I swear I watched these this time.
You said you did.
Yeah, I did. I did. I don't really have much more to say about it other than, it's the Hirogen introduction. I mean, you have the Starfleet, you have Janeway assuming that they can just use this network like it's been abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
So when everything gets held up, you have that problem. And some of the messages are missing too, right? So
right.
You don't have everyone.
Right, and that spins. What's nice is that does spin on to in next episode we'll talk about in the season finale how that ends up being a factor because we've decoded it and and kind of what spins off from there. So
yeah, I liked the brief glimpses into the people that are being missed back home.
Right.
Like you don't have them talking a lot about the people that they have that they've left behind.
Right.
You hear a little bit about it early on. Janeway had a fiance, Harry Kim had a girlfriend.
Right.
Paris's dad.
Yeah. And the Maquis.
The Admiral.
The Maquis was a big part of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was because this has taken place in season 6 of DS9, and in season 5 is when season 6 is the Dominion War, but in season 5 of DS9 is when Cardassia joined the Dominion, and then they wiped out the Maquis immediately. Yeah. And so, and then we had a follow-on episode in DS9 with Eddington, who was one of the surviving Maquis, rescuing a bunch of Maquis people. But then we saw just how dead everybody was. But of course, our Voyager people wouldn't know that. And then just watching, Chakotay gets the news from one of his associates who was in prison back there, and then B'Elanna and this sets up her episode next season where she's was it Extreme Measures or something, the one where she's
Extreme Risk,
where she's doing all the holodeck holodeck where she's trying to make herself feel something because she's so numb inside because of the news.
It's this run of episodes really is the stuff that sets up actual character arcs for Voyager and actual growth. And I have a theory as to why this starts in season 4. And I think it's because it's the introduction of Seven. Right. And Seven of Nine as a character needs to have growth in order to work as a concept. You can't bring a Borg drone on and not have her grow or change at all.
Right.
So by her anchoring the point of change and saying that characters have to change and grow, everyone else follows in that and has
a catalyst
character arcs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Tom and B'Elanna have already gotten together by this point.
Right.
They're starting to, their relationship is developing, and it develops further from here. I loved Tom and B'Elanna's moment in this episode where he's comforting her. Like, he doesn't want to hear from home. Yeah. Not really. He kind of does, but he doesn't.
Right.
And him comforting her when she admits that everyone is dead.
Yeah.
Like, that moment between them was so touching. I liked that.
Right.
Very much.
And it was great to get a glimpse, and it's kind of a short change that later in this episode, even when Tom and his father see each other face to face across the screen. They don't interact. They never interact. But in this, we hear Tom saying, you know, I have such a life on Voyager that nothing back home matters to me. And it's amazing to get that character insight into him, because he's our first Starfleet character that's really, you know, not a great guy when we meet him, but has this great voyage, so to speak, where he stumbles along the way. But
everyone does. Yeah. Like everyone gets redeemed.
Right.
You know,
right.
As Seven gets redeemed, you know,
right.
Tom gets redeemed.
Right.
He's a completely different person by the end of the series. So is everyone. And
except
you have a lot of critics of Voyager who say that they don't grow and change, but they do. It's there. And a lot of it is because they are a family. They've all that they've got to each other. So they have to rely on each other. And that breeds sort of unconditional love among them. And I
love it. Good.
Yeah.
Good deal. Okay. Awesome.
There's my insight.
All right, there you go. And now you're back. You're maybe halfway back to getting that. Maybe we'll make you a lieutenant junior grade. Maybe we can give you half a point for that one. That was good. So now you can be Tom Paris. So go get a red one of those. All right. Well, let's move on. And then Jen, you can have, now that your flow is up, you can have episode 16.
Episode 16, Prey. Directed by Alan Eastman, written by Brannon Braga, aired February 18th, 1998. Voyager rescues a Hirogen survivor who tells them that a new kind of prey is on the loose.
Ooh, that sounds like a Thriller, you know, like it sounds like a pop song. A new kind of prey is on the loose. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. That's, you see this white man dancing over here. There you go. Guest starring the incomparable Tony Todd, who I've told the story before, but in 2019, he stopped by our booth at Grand Rapids Comic-Con when I was away doing something else, reeking of weed smoke, hit on my wife, sat in the captain's chair, took some pictures, and then was gone. So I never got to see him. So that's my secondhand smoke Tony Todd experience. But anyway, So Jen, what do you think? What do you think about the episode?
It's interesting that you have the Starfleet perspective of wanting to learn more. You know, Seven is basically saying, destroy this immediately. We know about this. We know that this is going to be a problem for you, just as she did with Species 8472. So when you have 8472 and the Hirogen together, it's like, you have to get rid of this. This is going to be a problem. But you have the Starfleet curiosity and Janeway's curiosity specifically as a scientist who wants to learn more about what they're dealing with, and that sort of coming into conflict here too. So that This is the one with the Seven and Janeway.
The big throw down,
big thing,
and at the end of it, Seven gets
the whole wrist, you want me to evolve into an individual, but only as long as I agree with you.
Right. So to follow rules and follow the protocols. Yeah, and she's like, I don't want to do that.
Forgetting that it's this episode. I keep thinking it's a mega directive. That's that one, but it's this one. And that, I mean, that's growth for Seven, and Seven just becoming who she is. I mean, she's a teenager, right? At this point, because
very much
she's never gone through being a child, being a teenager, and testing the boundaries and testing rebellion and asserting herself. But the thing is, she's right. You know, I mean, I love Seven. I'm going to stand up for it. But Janeway's right too. Like, they're both right. And that's one of the things that I like about some of these great Star Trek episodes is when you have two points of view that are in conflict, but neither one is really wrong.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So I really liked that about this episode as a Seven and Janeway kind of conflict, and both of them growing from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Aaron.
Yeah, I gotta say, really enjoyed seeing Candyman back on Star Trek again. It was a lot of fun. I'm becoming such a huge like I've always liked Tony Todd, but lately he's really just becoming one of my favorites. He just recently was in the Spider-Man 2 game as the voice of Venom, and now I just can't picture anybody else doing that character voice now. It was so profound and awesome. His voice is incredible.
Yeah.
But I really love this episode. I really loved seeing his character and his determination and going up against, well, I know them as the Undying, but from playing Star Trek Online, but species 84. I can never remember the numbers.
8472. You got it.
8472. Okay, thank you very much. But yeah, that was a ton of fun. I enjoyed seeing the conflict between Seven and Janeway. I gotta say, I'm going to take Janeway's side on that argument. As a kind of proposal, because I kind of found myself agreeing with her more. I love her optimism, because at this point they don't know a lot about species 8472, and the fact that she was so open to the possibility that getting this creature home to its people could be an opportunity to open diplomatic relations. It's such a leap of faith, and it's the sort of thing you have to have when you're a captain, and I admire that mentality so much. And I kind of felt a little bit betrayed, as Janeway did, when 7 of 9 circumvented the orders and had it beamed to the Hirogen, and that whole thing. I was like, no, what a missed opportunity.
It is, but is Janeway projecting?
Could be,
because she also wants to get her people home.
Yeah,
that could be. But it's also, that's the thing about Starfleet, though. A lot of it, going into the unknown, seeking new worlds, is just a leap of faith.
It is.
Yeah,
and Janeway,
absolutely.
And Janeway is just so good at that. Like that's one of her strengths as a captain, is just the way she really encapsulates that concept.
Most def. Awesome.
And her having a scientist background is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Big time. For sure.
So
big time. Cool.
I like that they don't forget that.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah, and you're right. She's our first captain who is not a traditional. Well, I guess Picard not, but both like Sisko and Kirk are very swashbuckling, and I got a background and this and that, and where Picard's more the diplomat, where she's a merger of, hey, I can be the action hero if I need to, which we've seen very plainly in some episodes, but also I'm thoughtful and scientific, and I'm very methodical about how I do things and see things, and it's one of the reasons that makes her such a great character. I am in agreement. So, all right, well, let's move along to an episode that also has a lot of crazy connotations. I think Retrospect is episode 17. Jesus Salvador Trevino, who is the director of Mortal Coil, which was the episode that we had on the watch party for the region last night. And we talked a little bit about his background. This is one of, I think, 5 episodes that he did for Voyager. Teleplay by Brian Fuller and Lisa Klink. Story by Andrew Shepard Price and Mark Gaberman from Feb of 98. After experiencing unsettling hallucinations or memories, Seven is hypnotized by the Doctor, whose analysis reveals a traitor might have extracted Borg technology from Seven without her consent. Wow. There is a lot going on in this episode, and I can tell by the pursing of Jen's lips that she has some very strong thoughts about this, which I'm not even going to waste time, and I'm going to kick it right to her. So Jen, take it away.
This episode has so many unfortunate implications. I understand what they were going for, mostly because on Delta Flyers, they had Lisa Klink come on to talk about what the sort of thought process was with this.
Oh man, I should tune into that one. I think I missed it.
Yeah, it's so the idea that they had was they wanted to tell a story about repressed memories being incorrect, which is something that Tuvok points out in the briefing room when they're talking about this. But the fact that it's Seven, who's the hot girl, talking about being assaulted and violated, when she already has a history of being violated, in her assimilation by the Borg, yeah, like that's her whole past,
thing.
Her whole trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like to bring this up again and then have it be incorrect.
Right. Yeah. I watched it with that kind of eye too. And particularly this character in his whole society being based on, well, if we're traitors, and if there's ever even the merest implication of impropriety, my career would be done for good. So he can't even handle going through any kind of legal.
He can't even be accused.
Yeah, he can't even be accused, and so he flips out, which is ultimately he dies in the end because he overloads the ship engine, or I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's trying to escape.
He commits suicide over it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue that I have with this is Janeway's total flip, right? To hear some of these words coming out of Janeway and to come out of Kate Mulgrew specifically. I mean, I know she's only saying the words that she's the actress. She's saying what is in the script.
Right.
But the flip of, no, this is wrong. You're incorrect. We have to go with this guy. I know he's kind of a jerk, but we have to uphold. It boggles my mind, the implications that this has of, we don't pay attention to victims. We don't listen to victims, because if the victim accuses someone of assaulting them, then their life is going to be ruined, and we're going to put all of the onus on the victim to prove. I mean, it's just all of this. The unfortunate implications of this episode really bug me.
No,
I want to just
I hear you.
Strike this episode from the record. And the crazy thing is, if it had been something, if these repressed memories had happened to Tom Paris or Harry Kim, or even B'Elanna to some extent, but like if it had happened to a guy, not that I'm saying that this can't happen to a guy, but the implications would have been less damning.
Yeah.
For the episode.
Yeah. It was
obviously. The allegory would still be there because this does happen to men. I don't want to say that it doesn't, but overwhelmingly it's going to it's so problematic.
It's very true. And, and some would a counterpoint argument that an episode like this, because it's so problematic, does really make you look at this kind of thing from a lot of different angles, without a doubt. But this, outside of that, tells a great kind of Star Trek story that makes you grimace, because you really don't know what the right answer is, because were her memories correct? We never really find out. Could have been, should have been, whatever it is, that she was.
The implication is that they're not.
Yeah, exactly correct. But ultimately, I don't know that they ever. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If they ever come to a really solidified conclusion that maybe there could have been some other wrinkle or whatever it is, but the guy is so adamant about, like, well, even if I'm accused, my life is over, and then he kills himself off, and it ends, and we move on. And
the doctor's also adamant about it by saying that it's, well, this is absolutely correct, and it's like, it's not.
Right.
Necessarily, like,
and then he says, well, I was so colored by believing you that that even I wasn't willing to be objective, I think was what
there's so much, everyone's just out of character.
Yeah, it
doesn't work.
It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. So I think the counterpoint is, well, it really does make you think, but then again, maybe what it makes you think about is not something that is very comfortable or great. I don't know. You're right. We could pontificate about this forever. I just think
in the wake of movements like Me Too,
right,
and more women stepping up and speaking about their experiences, we have to believe women and men when they talk about their experiences, and not put the onus on the victim.
Right.
And just have it be fair. And I'm not saying that people don't just make stuff up sometimes they do. We never know.
Right.
And I mean, maybe that was the point of the episode, to say that we don't actually know.
Right.
I don't think that was the point of it. That's my reading on it, though.
Yeah.
So I'm Aaron.
Yes, please.
Rambled enough.
Take it away from us, please.
Excellent points. And I got to say, I completely agree with everything that you're saying, but I do have kind of a different perspective on this. I'm coming at this from a slightly different angle. To me, this was very topical because, I'm very open about the fact that I'm very much into paranormal experiences and research. And this is a major issue when it comes to like UFOs and the alien abduction phenomenon.
Yeah.
That is a major discussion to be had, because there's a lot of people who say that the abduction experience itself is a manufacture of hypnotists, therapists going into the session with an agenda, you know.
Yeah.
And when they go under the hypnotism, they're directing the memories and the experiences to reflect a certain angle or perspective. And that's why a lot of witnesses and experiencers of this who have gone under hypnosis were kind of finding that their testimony, I think, has less credibility. Unless we have a tape of the session where we can see specifically what was said. It's like, did the therapist have a bias going into this? You know, did they find a way to slant this? Did they word the questions in a certain way that it altered their memories in some way? Because a lot of people don't take hypnotism seriously. You know, they just kind of think it's a woo-woo kind of thing. But there's a legitimate science to this, and it is possible.
Absolutely.
It is possible to obscure or alter memories if you don't know what you're doing. And in this situation, the doctor was trying this for the first time.
Right.
You know, expanding beyond his protocols and everything and trying something new. I don't think he was necessarily qualified to be attempting this experiment in the first place.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Angle.
I think that was probably the actual intent of the episode, was to say that there's a problem with hypnosis and manufactured memories, and it is an interesting phenomenon that memories can be manufactured. It's just that the content of those memories and the fact that it's happening to 7 of 9 is what makes it problematic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Retrospect, no pun intended.
Oh, what a button in talking about this episode in a retrospect.
Yeah.
And there's so much about the memories and the science of memories and how the brain works and everything that we're still just beginning to understand in a lot of ways. You know, it's interesting.
I think it could have been pulled off better if it was either a different character or a different situation where it wasn't an assault.
Yeah,
where it
I agree.
Just something else.
Right. Man, oh man. I love it. I love the conversations. Good stuff. So, well, thankfully I'm going to grab this next one because it's a two-parter. And again, it's one of my favorites, but thank God there is a shift in tone between this and kind of tilting us backwards into a more of an action focus. But we get it wasn't even a sweeps two-parter because it was in March. I'm like, come on, guys, push it out to May, get those ratings. But episodes 18 and 19 are The Killing Game. Directed by David Livingston and written by Braga and Minosky. So you got kind of the first string, the A squad doing these episodes. And this aired in a single night, March the 4th of 1998. The Hirogen have taken Voyager, and over a 3-week period, their implant devices are being used against the crew, making them believe they are characters within the holodecks being used for hunts. This says all set in World War II Europe, but that's not correct because we do see other programs going on, including a Klingon simulation. This was awesome, and we get thrown right into it. Our cold open is a Klingon fighting party. And you know, we're just, there's just some regular Klingon stuff going on. And we cut back and one of the Klingons is Janeway. And so you're figuring out what the hell's going on. And then there's a Hirogen and he kills her or stabs her fatally. She falls down. And then he chirps in and he said, holodeck 1, Janeway's been injured, beam her to sick bay and then put her back in the other program or whatever. And so then, we kind of unfoil the plot line from there. The only crew member that we run into who's not part of the simulations is Harry Kim, because poor put upon Harry Kim. Oh my God. He is, getting beaten up, but he's in charge of running the holodecks and making sure that everything's going on while the Hirogen kind of, punch him in the face here and there for whatever. And then of course the doctor who's in charge of keeping everybody alive and is stuck in the holodeck or stuck in sickbay. We get this really cool World War II simulation, which really dominates everything. And it's really the group that we see in the small town in France is the Maquis. The Maquis were the French resistance in World War II. I don't know a ton about it, but I do know that. Janeway being the lead character. Seven being, I think she's in French, her name is Chantruse 7 of 9 or something. I don't know. There's a French saying of it if you read the notes. She's singing. I'm not sure if that was Jerry Lynn's singing voice, but I feel like it was.
I
read that somewhere upon time. And you have Chakotay and Tom are both army officers who are looking to connect with the French resistance in order to take their town, because it's pivotal to moving on into Berlin and essentially ending the war in Europe. So really super cool. Eventually is Seven, because she gets injured, the doctor is able to turn off her implant, so she's able to go back into the program and then work from within, and she's able to do the same thing and affect Janeway. So then the two of them can start working together, but everybody else still thinks they're part of the program. But through this, they're able to conquer their way out of the holodeck. You got another great appearance. The first of two appearances is by actor J. Paul Boehmer is his name. He appears as another Nazi in Enterprise. In the season 4 opener, he's the Nazi who's holding Archer prisoner in the back of that truck as they're driving him away, when he ends up in alternate history World War II Europe, where the Nazis have conquered half of North America. So I guess that's a tough one as a casting choice. Like, hey, you look like a Nazi, buddy. What do you think about that? Poor guy. He also does play Seven's Borg offspring in the episode. I think it's one or drone or one. I don't know. I get the two confused, but it's in I think the beginning of season 6. This was what a rip-roaring awesome cosplay related. It's cosplay within because they all get to do this dress up and such. At the end of it, we get a truce by which Janeway gives an optronic data cord to the Hirogen, because their ultimate goal was to master holodeck technology or hologram technology so that their hunts can become virtual, because the actual hunt is just kind of fracturing and destroying their society. But that, of course, ends up having disastrous consequences on down the road when we get another two-parter about the Hirogen in season 7. So I absolutely love this episode. This was fun. I love World War II stuff. It was, I don't want to say it's topical at the time, but this was just before Saving Private Ryan came out, which was in the summer of 1998, as I recall. So I guess 1998 was a great year for revisiting World War II. I guess, because I know there was another movie called The Thin Red Line, which came out that same summer, which I think starred Travolta was one of the actors in that. I'm not sure who the star was, because I haven't seen it since then. But yeah, totally killer episode. Loved it. Great performances. Great, and again, the Hirogen being a newer threat, a newer race, we get a little bit more perspective. In fact, that maybe they do have some goals as a species that aren't just totally awful, so they're not so one-dimensional. They're trying to find ways to maybe stop the killing and bring their society together. That's part of this that I also really like. So Aaron,
boy, did I really enjoy this episode. I love the way it just unapologetically drops you right in the middle of the action at the start of the episode with no explanation or anything like that. That was so cool. I was watching this one with my wife, and she was like, am I missing something? Did something happen in the last episode? And I was like, no, you're working with the same information I am.
Yep.
This is fine. I had to watch this one with her because she's big into historical costuming and stuff like this. And I was like, oh, you're going to love this. So
buckle up.
Yeah, so she had a lot to say about the costume. She loved that the way they did everything and the way everything looked. And at one point there, when we cut away and we see Harry Kim and the situation he's in, I paused the video and I turned to Jessie, because she's not that familiar with. She's a Star Trek fan, but she hasn't seen a lot of Voyager, so she doesn't know a lot of the tropes and stuff that we know.
And I love that she's watching this with you, because it's kind of increasing her education. So hey, look at something good this show has also accomplished. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. So while I'm watching this, I said, look at this guy. And she looks at Harry Kim. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you see, he's an ensign. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, this guy's about to single-handedly save this entire ship. And at the end of the show,
no promotion.
He's still going to be an ensign. And she's like, no. And I'm like, yes, this is Harry Kim. Enjoy.
It's so wrong.
4 times that Harry Kim saves the ship.
And everybody on every other show gets a promotion, I swear. And never for Harry Kim. I think it just became a punchline. It's a never-ending punchline. It sucks.
Yeah. But beyond that, I loved it. I loved the Indiana Jones vibe of the whole episode,
Yeah.
and the World War II stuff, and
Yeah.
and all that, and then that great scene where they blow up the wall in the holodeck because the safety limiters are off, and it's like, that's what the safeties are for.
Yeah, right.
And then they just started spilling into the ship, like all these holographic bad guys and Nazis and the resistant fighters that spills into the hallways. I'm like, oh man, this thing is getting trashed. This is awesome. I loved the whole episode. It was just so exciting and so much fun.
Best ever possible moment: Klingons killing Nazis. Just give me a nonstop gif of that happening. Yeah, because
absolutely,
because your head Nazi guy, the J. Paul Boehmer guy, who I was talking about, gets bat-let at the end, and it was fantastic.
Very satisfying.
Loved it. All right, Jen.
Again, I love this episode. It's a lot of fun. One of the things that I really like is the roles that everyone plays in this. And I think it's a really neat swap of Janeway heading the actual Maquis, and you have Chakotay coming in as the military guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it was great.
What a neat swap. I loved that.
Yeah. And I love their interaction as they're crawling through the Jeffries tube to get to the Klingon holodeck because they need to recruit them. And they're having this chat about, because he's still in character, and he's like, well, you're a real can-do gal. And she's like, whoa, thanks, I guess. Whatever. Sure, you bet.
Yeah.
When it comes to my people, I'm a real can-do gal. It was just, I thought it was adorable.
And the analogy of them suspecting that Seven is a Nazi sympathizer because, it's her being Borg. So it's the way that they translate that.
Yeah.
She did do her own singing for this. I just looked it up.
Oh, very
also.
nice.
So
I like
that
it.
is confirmed.
Yes.
The way they worked Roxanne Dawson's pregnancy into this so that she didn't have to hide behind a jacket or a console for this.
Right.
I can tell that they were having a lot of fun with it.
The Beverly Crusher, if you prefer, the hiding behind a chair. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have a question though, and I don't know if anyone's going to have an answer for it.
I'll try.
But they make Janeway a Klingon for the Klingon holodeck thing.
Right.
They make Neelix a Klingon for the Klingon holodeck thing. Why didn't they make Neelix or Tuvok human for the World War II thing?
That is an unanswerable question. Good pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's no logical
observation.
There's no logical reason. I think the real world part of it is simply that people love Klingons. And it was, it had good FaceTime value to take our characters and put them, because think about the season 5 opener for DS9, the Apocalypse Rising or whatever it was, where all of those characters became Klingons. That was really cool to see. Cisco is a Klingon, Odo is a Klingon. Yeah. So logically speaking, there's no reason that what you're saying is correct. There's no explanation that I can think of.
Just Alexian writing down 1940s fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it possible the Hirogen just didn't notice?
Could be.
It's possible.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a good point.
Yeah, because holodecks are, it's kind of phony. There's not a lot of really great rules, just because, a holodeck is such almost unbelievable technology that, basically you're in a room where you're on a treadmill and that's how you walk around and see things. So, and everything you see is an illusion. So, and the clothes you're wearing can change and then change back, or it's just, there's a lot of rules that make any sense.
It's kind of like in Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, the classic TOS episode with the white on the right side and the black on the left side. To them, as their species, it was such an astronomical difference. But Kirk, as an outsider looking at it, couldn't tell.
Right.
Like, he didn't notice. And I was wondering if that's a similar perspective that Hirogen said, so they didn't say anything, and the doctor wouldn't volunteer.
Yeah, they really just wanted those people there so they could hunt and kill them, so they don't necessarily care that much.
It's probably not a big...
Okay. It's like the DS9 uniforms. Once our people see that they change, they're like, you know what? We don't care. We're not going to bother.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's wrap it up with episode 20. Aaron, I think it's your turn.
Okay. Episode 20. Vis-a-vis. This was written by Jesus Salvador Trevino.
Directed.
I am so sorry.
That's
Jesus
right.
Salvador Trevino. Written by Robert Doherty. And this premiered on April 8th, 1998. And for the synopsis, an alien shuttle with a prototype propulsion system suddenly appears and requires assistance. Paris is restless and volunteers to help the pilot Steth repair the shuttle.
With wacky results.
Absolutely. Yeah, I gotta say, I thought this was it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. It was great seeing Tom again being the feature of it and getting some insight into him and everything that he went through. And I enjoyed seeing him working on the Mustang and everything. Yeah. I'm not much of a car guy, but I do love those classic cars. It was kind of interesting seeing him have that little conflict with the doctor about where him not showing up to sick bay, and he's being like, well, this is kind of like being in sick bay, talking about everything.
The surgery he's doing on the carburetor or whatever. Yeah.
And then the carburetor ended up coming into play, for the finale of the thing, because he it gave him this unique perspective when he was working on this alien engine, to come up with the equivalent of a carburetor, to solve an alien problem. And I thought that was really clever. The way that they did that, and even the alien itself was really interesting. The concept of this kind of like low key body horror of its ability to copy a host, but then trap the host in the body that has discarded. Yeah, I'm like, wow, what a raw deal for the victim of that. I mean.
And there was a big switcheroo at the end because Janeway's explaining in her captain's log, well, he managed to get back a face, but the actual bad guy has the face of the person before that. So I'm like, I'm lost. And then the goal is to go back and try to find the person whose face that actually belongs to. And so you're kind of left like, okay, well, evil is punished. Good deal.
And that big twist at the end with the final switcheroo happened. I actually had to go back. Okay, when did this happen? I had to pause the episode and go back and rewatch it again. I'm like, okay, all right, I see how. Okay,
now I get it. So,
how many layers deep does this Freaky Friday?
I know
cake go.
This is your 7-layer burrito dip here of Star Trek, no doubt about it. So, I would say because it's such a strong crop of episodes, this one didn't really thrill me, but I do like Tom Paris, and but some of it is painful, like, oh, Tom wouldn't do that, he wouldn't drink on duty and be so rude to Seven and then try to choke out the captain. I mean, it's just, in some ways it was interesting to watch him be so out of character. In some ways it was like, I just don't want to see it because I like him so much. So that makes me kind of dislike it a little bit. But I will say, much to Aaron's point, it's a great Star Trek episode in its bones, because it's got a great alien concept, but ultimately predictable. Like, okay, well, he's gonna get back home again, and this will all get resolved. So it just, I didn't feel like this. It was kind of, we talk a lot on SFU, Akshay and I, about stuff having no stakes, and this just felt like a kind of a steakless episode. This was a vegetarian episode. There was no steak. So, all right, Jen.
I like Tom Paris, and I wish he got better episodes.
Yeah, kind of like what a lot
of. He has some better episodes. There are some better episodes for him. But this one did actually make my top 10 Tom Paris episodes list. It might have been number 10.
Oh, okay.
But I like that we have this insight into him and him working on the car. It's like, God, Tom Paris is such a nerd, right? Like,
perfect 20th century nerd, loving nerd stuff,
right? It's like, it's like the Shakespeare scholar these days, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's like, this historical reenactor looking at, 400 years ago and everything that would have been. You have to keep that in mind.
Right.
Like, he's not this cool dude. He's a nerd.
Yeah.
And I love that. I say that in the highest complimentary way, because we're also all nerds.
Snags a cool chick who's also kind of a nerd, because she's a Klingon warrior engineer, which is like, well, it's just, they're both kind of,
I love her. I love the one. I love them together.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad episode. It's not a great episode. It's a solid, like, B episode. Like, it's there, it's watchable, it's Voyager, you know how it's going to go. And it's kind of fun along the way.
Yeah. That is fair. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's start to wind this down. We'll back to Aaron. Aaron, give us a favorite of the bunch and a least favorite of the bunch.
Without a doubt, my favorite was The Killing Game. That had everything, the period costumes, the full cast, the Hirogen, just fantastic. I had such a great time watching that episode. It was a ton of fun.
Nice.
for a least favorite, and I'm sorry to do this to you, Tom. I got your commemorative plate behind me on the shelf.
Me too, and mine is signed. I love it.
Yeah, but vis-a-vis, it didn't do it for me.
Yeah, I hear you, Jen.
Favorite is also The Killing Game for all those same reasons. I really like seeing everybody. Holodeck episodes are great, and them kind of working through everything was fun. I like The Killing Game. Least favorite is Retrospect. For all the reasons that I've already established.
Exactly correct. I can't disagree with you. Well, while I did love The Killing Game, I do notch up Message in a Bottle a little bit higher just because I love the Alpha Quadrant touch. I love Bob Picardo, who after having spent some time with him in real life, really like him as a person and loved his portrayal in this. And I love how it started, the role of everything, not only with Herodians, but then what portrays throughout the rest of the series with being able to talk to home and all that kind of good stuff. And then least favorite, Retrospect definitely made me think. So hard, but it was tough to watch. But I'm as I just said with Vis-a-Vis, I'm with Aaron. It was kind of a stakeless episode, predictable, and it's just like you said, watchable. But when held up to these other episodes, this other great crop of episodes, just does not pull it off for me. So, yeah. All right, okay, well that's a wrap, guys. Awesome. And I'm excited to jump in our next episode and start doing the random episode. And again, we won't tease for that. Eventually, if it takes off, maybe if we ever get some good feedback from our listeners, maybe we'll even let one of our Patreons do the role for us. Who knows?
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be totally awesome. But we have our first, I think each one of us picked one, so we have the next 4 planned out. But when we get to the next one, yeah, I would be totally down with letting one of our esteemed Patreons roll the dice for us. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining as always. Aaron, where do people find you out there in the world?
Well, you can find USS Rhapsody on Facebook and YouTube. Well, we don't have anything on YouTube yet, but we got stuff in the works. Soon. And we are on Instagram. And of course, check me out at GBMI, Facebook, and YouTube as well.
Totally awesome. Jen, what about you?
I got a link tree. It's linktree.com/JenWatsonArt. There you will find links to my Facebook, Instagram, Etsy shop, Screen Rant articles, and a lot of other projects. I've got a t-shirt shop on TeePublic. Please buy my stuff.
Yes, I know. Same thing with Secret Friends Unite. We also, and it's always listed in our notes, we do also have a TeePublic shop. Every once in a while, somebody grabs something. But well, cool. I can of course be found right here, but I'm over on Threads at C3Carpenter. Spell it out. Also on Instagram. You can find me at the Secret Friends Unite Discord. That's where I spend a heck of a lot of my time. But my wife April and I do head up the USS Grand Petoskey. That is one of the biggest chapters of the International Star Trek Fan Club in the world. We are based here in West Michigan, but we have chapters all over Michigan, including my friend Aaron here down in Benton Harbor. But I'm also have the privilege of running Region 13 for SFI, which includes Michigan and Eastern Canada. If you're a Trekker within the sound of my voice, please visit sfi.org, USS Grand Petoskey, or our Region 13 website, which you can just Google because it has a WordPress name, and I'm not really good at that kind of stuff. And reach out to us. We would be very happy to get you connected with Trekkers where you live. So, friends, one more time, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
Be the Starfleet you wish to see in the world.
Remember, 1,000 stars means 1,000,000 maybes.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit SecretFriendsUnite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.